on you now, so make sure to behave.
I will behave, thank you.
I'm trying to figure out, Wendy, if I can man the microphone so you don't necessarily have to be on mic the whole time.
Yeah. And this goes over further too. So, oh, maybe not further. Okay. That's probably.
I'm sorry. I'll wait for you to get back to your seat.
Yeah, I think the last two are just not yet.
What's that?
She was looking at this. I said the last two are just
The last two are just
Nothing to sign today?
It's coming.
Oh, boy.
There's not much.
Just a
Oh,
There's just a few. Okay.
this way.
I already signed. No, I'll do those after the meeting. Dana needs to sign the rest.
Nadia, you got the email about.
Yep. The meeting will come to order. Let the roll call show that all board members are present, with 4 board members present in person and Dr. Wendy Barnard present via phone. First, we will have a motion to approve the agenda. I'm going to go ahead and make that motion to approve the agenda with an amendment that we strike the discussion and action on proposed budget under action items. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. King, will you please lead us in the pledge?
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes for June 1st, 2022 business meeting and the June 21st, 2022 joint meeting with the town is the next item on the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes for the June 1st and June 21st meeting as presented. I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Next, we will have a public hearing on the budget for 2022-2023. We must first vote to suspend the regular meeting in order to conduct the public hearing on the budget. Do we have a motion?
I move that we suspend the regular meeting to have the budget hearing meeting.
I will second. So we have that motion and second. All those in favor of suspending the meeting for the budget hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed. We are now in our budget hearing section. Dr. Sweeney, do you have an intro for us?
Madam President, members of the governing board, and guests, only that Director of Finance, Catherine King, is here tonight. She's prepared a presentation for you, and she is ready to go on that. And so, Catherine, if you want to come up, thank you very much.
Well, Krista, thank you so much for getting it up there. I went ahead and made handouts just in case, so if any of you want extra paper. Right. So, well, how is everybody tonight?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, it's a good night. Oh, I will add that on the back side of all those handouts is a little breakdown on what acronyms mean in the financial world for school budget, okay? Because there's just a whole lot of, acronyms that in other industries mean completely different things.
That was very kind of you and extremely helpful.
It can be, yes. So they're on the back side, paper clipped over there. All righty.
Sounds like I have to get one.
Right? You can help.
I always need to know what those acronyms mean.
Alrighty. Okay, let's see here. So, all have been through several of these budget meetings, and I'm just gonna say, we're living in a lot of change right now. And so when I saw this quote by John Maxwell, of course, I just had to throw it in, that it is inevitable, growth is optional, and I'll tell you, I'm needing some pain med for the growth. But anyway, so I digress.
The growth pains.
So this is kind of feeling deja vu to me. Last year at this time, the legislature was actually still going on. They had not decided to stop. We really thought since it was an election year, they would finish early. They didn't. They did finish last Friday. The Auditor General released the final budget paperwork today, but it was this afternoon. I apologize, I could not. It was either you get a presentation or you get a final budget that wouldn't fit within the 24-hour notice. So we had to choose. You're stuck with the preliminary. However, I checked with ADE and with the Auditor General. They said that for the adopted budget, as long as the budget is an increase, not a decrease, which I've already checked, it will be an increase, we can go with the adopted budget. I can make the changes in the next 24 hours so that we can meet the public hearing notice requirement. And then that way you don't have to worry about another fast revision in the fall, okay? So the only revision you'll have is if they require a revision in December, we'll have to do that. So
Thank you for doing that, Jack, with
Yes.
the auditor, making sure that.
just wanted to make sure there was a way we could get around it, because last year they didn't give us that option. So,
And so kind of the legislature to make these decisions at the 11th hour, giving us hardly any time to accommodate.
and you know, I'm so glad that they did add in just a little tiny wording that allowed us to do this funky little adoption. So that's how that's gonna work. Anyway, so let's get on to the fun of today's numbers, brief comparison. So the budget that I submitted yesterday for your review is based on the FY22 multipliers. So that was 4390 as the base level amount with a 1.21% increase in capital. And then there was a small little increase on the transportation support level and some minor change movements in the weighted add-ons. Weighted add-ons are when you're looking at your student count and then you're looking at your weighted student count. They have all sorts of little multipliers depending on if you're K through 3, if you're K through 3 reading. I will say in FY21, we had numbers for both K through 3 and K through 3 reading. For whatever reason, we did not hit those extra numbers this year. And they are therefore not set for next year. So whatever needs to happen, I know Dr. Sweeney and I talked about it a couple times, we couldn't figure it out. There's something on ADE's site where Dr. Glass had been working with them. I'm not sure what, I don't know where it's at, but maybe something for the new superintendent to try and tackle, or maybe it's something Chris would tackle, I'm not sure. Okay, so let's go on to the M&O, student counts. So for the proposed budget and adopted budget, you're looking off of the 100th day average for daily membership. And then it is standard in the industry to go back either 3 or 5 years, see what the trend is for enrollment. You use that to help determine whether you're going up or down and by what percentage. And then also attrition rates. So attrition rates being you've got people who are graduating, you've got newbies coming into preschool, kindergarten, first grade. So after all of that, and then Dr. Sweeney and I talked, we feel like it's not necessarily as dismal, I think, and that's fair to say, as what some things looked in May. We feel like things are looking a little bit better. So we went with a 5% decrease in enrollment. We do think that's going to turn around or at least level out and then maybe start to come up a little bit, but just trying to be conservative. It's always easier to go up than down. Anyway, based on these numbers, we're looking at an ADM of 1,093. So an average daily membership in students of 1,093 across the 3 schools. Now that's just the ADM. Once we get done with all the weighted student counts, we're up to 1518. Using the FY22 multiplier, that puts us at about 6.7 million. I went ahead and just did a quick addition using the increased add-on for one of the special education sections where we have the most students. We have 112 students in that area that are in the classroom, and then a little over 2. I don't know how they get a decimal point for children, but anyway, a decimal point for children in the online. But that's the one that has the ADHD, the dyslexia, things like this. So we have over 112 students. When we're done with that multiplier, it raised us by about 30 some odd points. So on the weighted student count, that brought us up to an M&O based on just the weighted student count and the base level at about 7.3 million. But that's not what I could do the proposed budget off of. I had to do it off the smaller number. Now we do have some other factors. The M&O override of 1.3 million. We've got the budget balance carry forward of just over $1 million. I gotta tell you, Karen was amazing. She worked with John Flynn to really go through the numbers, really tighten things up, move some things around, close POs that were not being used, move some money to POs that were a little bit over where they should have been, things like that. So really appreciated all of the hard work that she put into that. We're always allowed an audit adjustment. So the audit adjustment is not based off of what the audit cost is. So we're talking about the third-party auditors. It's been Henry and Horn the last couple years. Anyway, it's about $35,000, but the amount that we're allowed to actually get that adjustment for is dependent on a percentage of what we get from M&O versus what we get with federal grants. So 32,000 is what we can count. I estimated off of Prop 123 for our final numbers from FY22, so that's at 88,000. We've got federal programs and grant monies, as you know. ESSER has just been a huge benefit to us, so that gives us an additional 3.25 million. State programs and grant monies a little bit low. We're down to 14,594. And then the DAA or the capital, the low estimate is at 612, again off of the FY22 numbers. That is going to increase on the FY23. So do it is right, not what's easy, what's popular. Okay, this kind of gives me a little bit of, happiness in the finance department, because sometimes saying no is really not as easy as people think it is. So payroll. Classroom raises, this part's great, absolutely fantastic. We were able to go, I have not moved you,
Yes.
and I am so sorry. Keep up, ladies and gentlemen, keep it up, okay.
We would have missed your cute little slide
Yes.
there.
Did you like, oh, that was fun, I had fun running that one, yeah. So anyway, new salary schedule for teachers. Mr. Buckley and Dr. Sweeney were in the meet and confer and did, I thought, a really good job just negotiating some teacher salaries, particularly around the salary schedule. Apparently there were some teachers where maybe some experience levels were not completely pulled through and giving them the benefit there. So we made some changes there. We've got a new district-wide minimum wage. Thank you very much for it, because it was kind of embarrassing. Some of the people were at $12.80. We made the new minimum wage $15, thank you very much, because the state was going to increase minimum wage again this year, so this way we don't have to worry about it, we can just throw it in the budget to begin with. And then everyone that was not particularly affected from the salary schedule adjustments and then from the new minimum wage, they still got a 2.5% raise. So everybody got a little something, right across the board. Now in the classroom, for specifically function 1000, this translates to an 8.45% increase in salaries for the certified staff classroom. It's just over 262,000. And then again, in the classroom, but for instructional aides, they were the ones that were really down low in the 1280 range. Now they're up to 15 at least. So that increase was over 31%, and it relates to about a $78,000, $79,000 increase. But I think those are things we can truly be proud of as a district, that we just kind of sucked it up and made that happen. So, however, at the same time that we did some wonderful things with the wages, well, inflation is over 10%. We've got, all of us feel a little pain at the gas stations. The supply chain slowdowns have increased some costs. So the food service, you'll see on the Sodexo renewal that there's a little bit over a 6% increase in the cost for that. But really that's, last year they never charged us an increase. I don't know if y'all know that, but the increase in the budget was supposed to be over 3%. However, Julie's manager did not get that number to her till after we had our board meeting. And so Julie talked with his manager and they decided to eat that cost. They can't eat it this year, which is fair.
Didn't know that.
They also bought us an air fryer last year on the hopes that we would go ahead and buy 3 more air fryers. That didn't quite happen, but we were able this year to go ahead and get an additional air fryer. We've got some steamers. And then because of supply chain issues, there were a couple other things we couldn't get before the 30th. Which is a procurement thing, I'm sure you understand. And so what we did then is I met with Scott, our new Julie, and he was wonderful. He said, let me talk with some vendors. Let's see what we can do because we no longer have free lunches this next year. Seamless Summer's done. They are not renewing this next year.
Okay.
So we are back to everybody got to pay for lunch. So the plus to that is we're going to see more money come in because more people will be doing the free and reduced lunch applications.
Right.
They've now added, the legislature added a weighted add-on group
Okay.
for free and reduced lunch. So please, please, please encourage the counselors and principals to push that with the people that are doing, whoever's doing enrollment. It's right in the packet. They just got to push the button, fill it out. If they need help, somebody shall be able to help them somewhere along the line. Don't call me, I don't know how to fill it out. Isn't that helpful? That was really helpful. I'm so sorry. Oh, I need a filter. Insurance is up 6 to 8%. Maintaining the fleet of vehicles, and then as you know, just the properties, that just continues to be a bit of a strain on the district. Over $1 million was spent just on facility upkeep this year. It's really quite painful. So the money has to come from somewhere, and I need to keep up. Okay, so this proposed budget, again, off FY22 numbers, I've already shown you it's going to be better. It will increase. But I did have to, in order to make this one balance, I had to take from our capital, put it into M&O, so that we could balance it. Now, when I just did a quick, again, not down to the penny, just a quick review, it looks like our M&O is going to be significantly higher this next year than what this particular budget shows. Also, our capital is going to be higher. So right now, I prefer the conservative. I prefer not to say you will absolutely get every single penny of capital back in capital, but I will say that you will get the majority of it. So if you were, which we were expecting off FY22 numbers, we're expecting over 600,000, and I took all of that. We will not have to take all of that. We will at least be able to get 500,000 back into capital. I just don't want to promise more than that till I know for sure. So hopefully in the next 24 hours, my eyes won't give out and I'll be able to get that sucker done. So that's where we're at with that. And then obviously had too much fun with quotes this time around. Off to new beginnings. So FY23 begins. Do y'all have any questions on this?
No, thank you for a very, informative slide and for all the work that you do. I know this isn't easy and dealing with the legislature and their last minute numbers.
But it's so nice that there's a whole bunch of us on email going,
Well, it's good that you have someone to vent with.
yeah.
And it's good you had fun with your quotes this time.
Yes,
So
yes,
you gotta have an outlet somewhere, Catherine.
Thank you all.
No, it was very informative. I appreciate all your work.
It was. I just want to make a comment. You don't have to stay up here. For the benefit of the audience, in case you aren't aware, our fiscal year ends tomorrow, and we aren't allowed to carry certain funds over from fiscal year to fiscal year. So that's why Catherine was saying, unfortunately, because of procurement, we weren't able to purchase some things and get it used out of this year's budget. So that if we want to continue to purchase those things, they will have to come out of next year's budget. We're required to approve at least have a hearing, and usually we try to approve the budget before June 30th, obviously because of the lateness of the legislature getting us those numbers. The Auditor General understands that it's hard for school districts to get all of that complete and a board to meet and approve a budget with less than 24 hours notice. So that's why we're saying, thank you, legislature, for making such last minute decisions when we have deadlines. All right, so we do have, as part of the required budget hearing, the opportunity for public comment or questions just regarding the budget during this special hearing section. So if there is anybody in the audience who has a question or a comment on the budget, you are welcome to come forward and ask any questions at this time. Okay, doesn't look like it. So we will go ahead and move to reconvene the regular meeting. I'm going to say so moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposed, the motion carries, and we are now back in our regular meeting. We'll move on to informational reports, starting with a summary of current events from Dr. Sweeney.
Madam President, members of the governing board and guests, I will be brief. I was asked to provide a little update on where we're at with staffing at the schools, and so I can give you some accurate information on that as we sit here tonight. So at McDowell Mountain, there's only one unfilled teaching position. It is special ed preschool. This seems to be like finding a unicorn. So any help that board members or the public can give in trying to hunt down, track, and recruit a preschool special ed teacher, that would be appreciated. We also need a school psychologist at McDowell Mountain, and then we have 4 part-time aid positions that we still need to fill. A couple of those are close to full-time, they're like 0.87. A couple of them are just 0.5. At the middle school, teachers are all hired up except for one math teacher. And we have a full-time custodial position there, and we're looking for a health aide at the middle school. At the high school, all of the teaching positions are filled. We do need a 0.5 occupational therapist, and there is a full-time counselor position open, as well as 3 part-time aid positions. And even though the principals are out until July 17th, I know they are monitoring the applications that are coming in and are not afraid to work and hire people as it happens. So overall, I think we're in a pretty good spot. And, you know, we forget it's only June 29th, but then at the same time, it's June 29th. So, you know, I think considering the teaching positions that are filled, I think we're in a pretty good spot there. And that's all I have this evening is my update.
With the exception of the quite hard to fill sped position for preschool at the elementary school, have we been getting candidates applying for those positions? Like, are we optimistic that we should be able to fill the majority of the positions before the school year starts?
I'm optimistic that we will. You know, it's been an interesting kind of ebb and flow of applications where we would see surges of applications for a variety of positions, then it just gets real quiet for a few days or a week, and then you get a few more. So I think, you know, probably getting to that point where there's people that maybe thought they were going to get a particular job somewhere and didn't get that job, and are going to be back in the market looking hard at it. So, you know, I feel pretty good about it. You know, that preschool one is really a tough one. We had that position posted all last year. We had no applicants for it at all. So,
Yeah.
Our new HR person is working to, you know, promote that a little bit and see what we can do. So I feel pretty good about it. You know, the number of applicants we had for the other teaching positions, we had multiple applicants from most all spots. And I think principals were pleased with the quality of the candidates that they were seeing and interviewing and hiring for those jobs.
Great. We really appreciate, you know, all of the staff from HR through to admins and any, you know, community members, parents who are involved, because some of those positions we do interview committees for, some of the ones that we've hired already. We really appreciate everybody's help, and not to say that every position isn't important in a district as small as ours. I am relieved to see that we do not have very many teaching positions left to be filled as we edge closer to the start of the school year. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Well, then we move on to governing board reports, and I think we actually should start with a little bit of a presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is Dr. Sweeney's last meeting with us. So we just wanted to take this time and let you know how thankful we are that you came out of retirement. Dr. Sweeney has poured blood, sweat, and tears into this district when he was superintendent. And you know, when we came to an area where we were in need of an interim superintendent, and I called Dr. Sweeney, and as I started to say, if we needed a superintendent, he said yes. Pretty sure before the sentence was out of my mouth. So, which, you know, I've joked in the last couple years that he retired from here, and then he ended up back in Paradise Valley, then he ended up in Scottsdale, and so I don't think he really wanted to retire. But you know, we just wanted to say thank you, and you know, the board has a little something for you. We hope that you take this and enjoy some time with your wife and maybe another couple and have dinner on the board. So if you'll pass that down to Dr. Sweeney. And we just wanted to let you know that you are so greatly appreciated. You know, the time, energy, and dedication that you have put into this district has just been amazing. And so thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. We will proceed on with our governing board reports. Mr. Starr, anything to report?
Just ditto all that.
Mrs. Reed, anything else to report?
I would just like to thank the Fountain Hills Town Council for inviting us into their chambers last week and having a joint meeting with us. It's always good when we can collaborate with another set of elected officials and try to come up with some great ideas for the town and for our students. And because even though the town council is a separate entity than we all have, you know, the town's best interest at heart, and it starts with our littles. And so I'd just like to thank them for that.
All right, Mrs. Rakowski, anything to report?
I thank you for the joint meeting too. And we did have some good conversation towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Barnard, anything to report?
No, I just want to echo what Jill said. Thank you so much, Dr. Sweeney. You have just been so amazing for our district, and it's been such a pleasure to work with you. And I hope you enjoy your much-deserved time away from Fountain Hills. Thank you.
And Dr. Barnard, I signed your name to the card, so.
Thank you so much, Jill. You're the best.
We didn't want you to feel left out since you're on the phone.
I know. Thank you.
For myself, yes, I echo the sentiments of all Jill for the meeting with the town council. It was great. It had been some time since we've been able to meet with them because of COVID. It is beneficial to our whole community when we can stay aligned and be partners. Obviously, we represent mostly children in our community, but there is we are an employer in the community as well, and there are a number of our employees who live in the district, and so are represented not just as employees, but also voting members of this town. And so when we can align with the town for the benefit of the community at large, it's great. And yes, Dr. Sweeney, thank you so much for all that you've done for us. We do hope that you won't be away too long because we would love your help with our overrides. But then we promise we will leave you alone.
I will bring up that. I'll check with our overrides. We make no promises.
Okay, next we have a presentation from the Pickleball Club. Welcome.
Thank you. Talk about change. The Pickleball Club has had a significant change this past year. We have grown quite a bit, and as such, decided we needed to be more formal, organized, and everything else. We became a 501c7, which I came here help with, and we had a very excellent consultant help us through that process. And in the action of doing that, we've created a lot of structure within the organization, and we're moving to new systems. We're really becoming a real little company here. So we too value the whole relationship with the board and appreciate what you've done for us and with us this past year. Whoever wants to take this, I think.
President Jenkins.
Here,
The president
I'm
here
gonna
will
come
take
down
it.
at your level, accept the check, shake your hand. Because thank you very much.
They're like, no. Oh, come on, ladies. Come on, George.
Thank you so much.
And more to come. I mean, we'll be back in touch. We're looking forward. We had a great relationship. We had a lot of meetings with Dr. Sweeney. We're looking forward to the relationship with Kane. They said I met him years ago.
Yes.
When he was back at school, so we're looking. We'll be knocking on the door.
He's open to talking.
Yes, thank
How
you.
many members are we at now? How many members of the club?
We went from 500 at the end of our fiscal year to 600 this year.
Wow.
It's a good job.
And a lot of change came with that.
Congratulations.
Yes.
We should congratulate that.
And
Jan should be on the election commission.
Yeah, that's 600 votes.
next we have public comment. Krista, are there any public comments this evening? Okay. Then we have the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we just have the personnel action report. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Okay, I will go ahead and move that we approve the consent agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? No, the consent agenda passes. Next, we have action items, starting with the supplemental reading materials for McDowell Mountain Elementary School that appears on page 19 of our board packet. Dr. Sweeney, do you have any additional information for us?
Just that I recommend approval. Those books have been on display consistent with district policy for 60 days. And I think they're good to go.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board, any discussion? Do we have a motion?
I move that the board approve the 4 books that have been on display for 60 days for McDowell Mountain 3rd grade.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the supplemental reading materials for MMES, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? There are no nay votes, so the motion passes. The next item is the special education policies and procedures. And is there some background for us on this, Dr. Sweeney?
Yes, Madam President. This special education handbook was updated by primarily Chris Alexander and Jennifer Hamilton, but it is intended to serve as a resource so that our policies and practices are consistent from site to site, and also as a tool that parents can use to be better informed about what to expect in terms of those policies and practices. It is worth noting that the vast majority of the content of that is in describing policies and procedures directly related to IDEA and the regulations that came from the U.S. Department of Education in support of IDEA. So there's not a whole lot of
Customization.
customization
Because there
to
can't
it.
be.
Yeah, and so I know that was a concern that a couple of board members had, but it's in line with the regulations that are there by the U.S. Department of Education. I do recommend approval. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Questions or discussion?
Glad it's done.
Yes, I'm glad it's done too. And once it's approved, it'll be put up on our website, is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. I will go ahead and move that we approve the special education policies and procedures handbook as presented.
I
Second.
Oh, you go ahead.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? No. So then the motion passes. We next have the board pro statement for the DAA override. Dr. Sweeney, any additional background background or intro for us?
Yes, Madam President. I do recommend that the board consider, discuss, and amend, if you wish, a resolution approving the governing board's argument in support of the special district additional assistance override election. It is Exhibit A in your board packet. That is a draft of the floor statement for your consideration, and I know you've had a chance to review that for at least a few days. So if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them, but this is also one of those things that we have to have a board-approved pro statement, and to put the pressure on, we have to have it tonight.
Understood. Are there any questions or comments from the board? I know we all got to see the statement previously before it was presented here in the packet. Any additional amendments to it?
Looks good.
No, I just appreciate Dr. Sweeney's work on this. So, thank you.
Agreed. Okay, do we have a motion? I'm trying to get caught up in my packet pages.
I know. Here, I have it.
Okay, thank you.
I move that the board approve the argument in support of the special district additional assistance override election.
Now, go ahead.
I second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion on the table, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes and we have approved the DAA override argument for support. Our next action item is the food service contract renewal amendment. As Ms. King shared with us, there is an increase in that is basically cumulative, right? They didn't get to get in the 3% from last year, so it was likely 3% for this year combined with the 3% from last year, which gives us this year's jump of 6%. Are there any, Dr. Sweeney, are there any other outstanding, like notable changes that we should be aware of, or is it just the fees in the contract?
No notable changes in the contract, but as Catherine pointed out, the good-looking gentleman in the white shirt over there, that is Scott Reddington, and I don't know if you've all met him. He is the new general manager for Fountain Hills Unified School District. Came on around April or so and transitioned in, and it's been wonderful to work with him. And he's the new Julie, and if you ever need anything, Scott's
Like if we ever need more blueberry scones.
Oh my gosh, those were amazing. Just saying. Oh yeah, they were warm. Yeah, we wanted to pack them up and take them home.
Yes.
They were.
And the last thing I will just add to this is that for as long as I've been here, Sodexo has always been a reliable partner.
Yeah.
And, I think the contract is reasonable and fair, given the circumstances of increased prices all the way around. It's certainly understandable. And you may see there's a point in there where we're guaranteed to get a little bit of profit. I think it's $4,009, but running a food service operation can be horribly expensive. And so the fact that they do it for us and we get a little bit at the end of the day is a good deal for the district.
Absolutely. Any other comments or discussion from the board?
No, but I would like to thank Sodexo for all the work that they've done, because I would like to echo Patrick's sentiments that it's always been amazing working with you all. Any staff breakfast or, even coalition luncheons, different things that have happened here, you guys have always done a great job, and I'm really sorry that you will be forever known as the new Julie. At least she was great, so.
Yep.
It's a compliment.
It is.
Any other comments? All right, I will go ahead and move that we approve the food service contract renewal amendment with Sodexo.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? There are no nay votes, so that motion passes, and that was our. I think we just lost Wendy. Did you hear it? It beeped.
It did, yeah.
Wendy?
I'm sorry, I'm back.
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry. I clicked the wrong button instead of the mute button.
Okay, well, we got you back, so it's fine.
Thank you, yes, thank you.
Okay, so that was our last action item. We're now moving on to information and discussion items, starting with the Facilities Use Advisory Committee recommendation. And I know I'm handing this off to you, Dr. Sweeney.
Yes, Madam President. Last week you provided a written summary of the Facility Use Advisory Committee's recommendation. I tried to keep it short and tight. I'm not sure that I succeeded in that. So if it got a little long, I apologize. But you all had the opportunity to review it, so I recommend you discuss any issues that you have. I'm glad to answer any questions. And just of note, this is an information and discussion item. There's no action required. The short version is that through a series of 8 meetings and looking at a lot of factors, enrollment costs, condition of facilities, needs, et cetera, the recommendation was to consolidate pre-K through 5th grade at what is currently the middle school site, move 6th through 8th grade here to the high school site, and buildings F and G, which are right behind us. There's more details of that. I'll go as detailed as you wish, or just answer any questions or concerns that you might have.
How much of the committee's recommendations is available to the public on the site? Like, is this packet available to the public on the website so they can see what the recommendation was, including, I know we have some floor plans here for the changes that would occur and where classrooms would be set up at each of the campuses, 4 Peaks as well, or excuse me, the Fountain Hills Middle School and the high school, so that parents who are interested at that level have the opportunity to see it. Obviously, it's not something that as you mentioned, we're taking action on, so it's not final, but I think parents would probably like to see all of the things that we're considering and the information that the board is getting.
Yes, so all of the agendas and the minutes for all of the meetings are up on the district website. They're housed in the area of the governing board, since this was a board-appointed, board-approved committee. This last piece, the summary, we can add to that, and I think the floor plans, and I want to qualify, those are draft layouts, because things could change depending on.
Maybe we should put a draft watermark on them or something, just to make sure that nobody takes them as set in
As
stone.
official.
But, this following discussion tonight, the summary that you were provided, and which includes the draft layouts of those, can certainly be added in that same spot on the district website.
I'm going to look to you, Mrs. Reed, as a participant in the committee as well, to give us your kind of both parental, parent in the district, committee member in that position, and then as a board member, your viewpoint. I think you have a unique lens on it.
So I'll start with my parent first. When my students were younger, my son would have been one of the classes that was part of the separation at the old 4 Peaks building. And I remember, the trepidation of that, of what's gonna happen to those 3rd graders, where are they gonna go? Like, they were so little still, and, did we really want them on a campus with the 7th and 8th grade? And so there was a lot of hesitation there. And so when the old 4 Peaks building closed, we moved, it was decided that the 3rd grade would remain at McDowell Mountain. And so that kind of gave us a sigh of relief. And then the 4th and 5th graders went over. And I know there's not a lot of difference between, 3rd grade and 4th grade, but the 3rd and 4th graders who were going to be 4th and 5th graders were already at 4 Peaks. So they were kind of already out of McDowell, where our younger kids were only 2nd graders moving into 3rd grade. And so it was such a big jump to see them go from 2nd grade into 3rd grade, and not to the old 4 Peaks building, but actually to the middle school. So I really wanted to know how parents who, this year had 4th graders, because next year they'll be 5th graders, and if the board approves this, it would actually be the following year when those kids were then 6th graders. I wanted to know how those parents felt, because to think about where your 4th grader now is going to be in, 2 school years, I really felt their hesitation. And in the beginning, there was some hesitation as to where the 6th grade. That was kind of everybody seemed okay with K through 5 and 7 through 12, but where did those 6th graders fall? You know, when it came to sports and it came to lunches and it came to just the interaction with other kids. And so over time of watching this kind of all transpire in the committee and seeing the drafts and stuff, looking at the floor plans that we were presented, Dr. Sweeney did a great job of presenting K through 5 and K through 6. When it was K through 6, the middle school was so compacted. I mean, it would just really be full. And, you know, we didn't want that either. We don't want to feel like the kids are right on top of each other. And I know, you know, there's the possibility of declining enrollment. We always hope that we're going to at least see a stabilization or we're going to see some increase. But, you know, even now, it's just not feasible for all of our students to be consolidated, whether it be on 2 campuses or, I mean, they can be on 2 campuses. We can't consolidate them on 1. And even putting K through 6 onto 1 campus, it was really tight. So that kind of gave a different perspective, and the consensus from some of the parents who will have 6th graders and the committee was that those 6th graders would be better off going with the 7th and 8th grade. They're used to that schedule. They're used to being with those kids. You know, that cohort kind of moves on. And so, you know, one of the discussions we had is, okay, well then 6th, 7th, and 8th grade on the high school campus, what does that look like? And Dr. Sweeney did a great job in presenting that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade would essentially have their own school. They would be separated from the 9 through 12. We're looking, you know, the committee talked about having 6 through 8 stay on the same bell schedule that they're on now, so the bus system would stay the same. Correct, Dr. Sweeney? I don't want to say it. So, and that they would be on the upper part of the high school campus. They would have their own sections. They would rotate on a different bell schedule than the high school. So there wouldn't be a lot of interaction there with the high school kids. That gave everyone kind of a sigh. It's like, okay, and just so everyone knows, because I didn't know this until the meeting. I mean, I've been through this with 4 Peaks and stuff, but once you kind of like reorganize, all the schools will get a different name. So, you know, it wasn't like, oh, you can just take this group and call it the middle school or anything like that. So that was just a piece of information. So, you know, putting 6 through 12 on the high school campus will fill up a lot of those rooms. Again, you know, I know with declining enrollment, it's been discussed that, you know, at some point we may all be on 1 campus. That's way off in the future. That, like, looking at these layouts and the buildings that we had available, that's not any time in the near future. So right now the art teacher she already goes between the middle school and the high school. So now all of her students would basically be on the high school campus. You know, it gives the band an opportunity to have those 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students there to build the band back up. There's a lot of benefits for those kids to be on the high school campus, and there's a lot of benefits to the K through 3, preschool through 3, moving to the middle school campus. There's a lot more natural light, you know, hopefully with our bond, you know, that we can put some better technology in there. There's, you know, better spaces. It's more feasible to redo the playground there. You know, we could, you know, everybody kind of has their own little wing. Bathrooms, kindergarten, basically 2 classrooms share their own bathroom. You have to have specific bathrooms for littles. They can't just go out into the regular restrooms. So there's a lot of area that was feasible to do that. So, you know, in the committees, at the end, after looking at all the expense that we put into McDowell Mountain and all the repairs that we'll need there, it literally would exceed what we're asking for in the bond. And so it would just be throwing good money into a bad building. So the committee came to the decision that it's really in the best interest to have a preschool through 5 school and a 6 through 12 school, although the 6th, 7th, and 8th would be separated into its own school. So that's where we're at.
And does that encapsulate your parental opinion as well as
Yes.
your board opinion?
As a board member, I never want to close a school because, you know, parent, board, community member, whatever, my heart is at McDowell Mountain. My kids have gone K through 12 here. But yeah, I mean, as a board member, I have to look at the financial responsibility, and it is not putting a lot of money into McDowell Mountain. It's our oldest school. It was built in 1986 at this point, our oldest school in use. You know, the high school isn't, you know, it was, I think, 93, 91. And then, you know, the middle school, late 90s, early 2000s. So those schools aren't far behind, and they also need a lot of work, but there's no point with our enrollment right now putting, you know, millions into a building that it probably is not worth it. So.
And I agree with you that I think that while it tugs at heartstrings to think of McDowell Mountain closing, there are aspects of the building that, because of when it was designed and built, are a little outdated, and so the middle school site does have more natural light and better open multi-use spaces, and it's just a nicer campus for those students to be on, and I think that there are benefits sometimes to having a larger range of ages, and having my kids in Illinois when they went to early elementary school in a pre-K through 5 building, the 5th graders would come and read to the kindergartners, and you know, because they had book buddies every week and things like that. So there are opportunities to have great learning experiences amongst the grades as well when you have a slightly wider age group of kids.
Well, and the other thing is that if we do it the way that it's been laid out with the committee, putting 6th, 7th, and 8th into its own, you know, school, it doesn't put them on buses. That's always a concern too, is the bus. What's going to happen on the bus? You know, that those kids would stay on that same bell schedule, which I like the later bell schedule. I think it's hard for little kids to go to school at 7:30 in the morning.
It's hard for high school kids.
Yeah,
to
it's
do.
hard for high
Hard too.
I know. So there's studies that say it's not a good idea, but you know, and then the other thing is that by moving them to the middle school, it gives us the opportunity to redo the playground, and right now McDowell Mountain's playground is terrible. The kindergarten one isn't so bad, but where the other, you know, preschool has to have its own, kindergarten has its own, and then, you know, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, theirs is not very nice. The grass is dead, and it's been an ongoing project that just never seems to come to fruition financially and just, you know, with resources. And, you know, one of the things that would be nice is if that building is not in use, if the town would be willing to partner with us. You know, people are always interested in using our field or our track, and if they could do something with that open space right next to McDowell to make it, you know, a walking park or something like that, Golden Eagle's difficult, you know, it has some sidewalks, but if you could actually do like a whole walking path, the kids there have the Bobcat Trail, or it used to be the Bobcat Trail, now it's probably the Falcon
Yes,
something.
right.
But, you know, it gives the opportunity, it's in a nice residential neighborhood, it's quiet there, and I'm sure, you know, we did have 2 neighbors sit on the committee, and neither one of them were opposed to the consolidation. They're both parents of students that have gone through this district. They understand, but I'm sure nobody wants to see that building just sit empty and not have that property being used. So.
Any other? Yes, Mr. Sardi.
Well, just, you know, to consolidate everything that went on over the months that this committee was in operation, 4 pages is good. It is summary. But I want to thank all those people, and their list is here, but, and Joe was there each time as well, but it's amazing how much they accomplished. You know, we always knew kind of what was going to happen, but to put it in this kind of detail at the end was awesome. If I have any questions, I think it's important that we say that this is not going to happen next 3 months, 2 months from now.
Right, it won't be during, I mean, the board could approve it, you know, in the next few months, but it's not going to take place during the 22-23 school year. It would be the 23-24 school year at a minimum. But if we do want this to happen, the decision will have to be made because there is a lot of work, and part of the funding for this is, part of it could come from the bond, part of it is out of capital, but the other piece is the school facilities board. And so their application process opens July 1st. Now, some of this stuff is gonna get done anyway, and John Flynn is gonna submit applications for certain things, because whether we consolidate or we don't, there are things that have to be
As
fixed
maintenance,
at
yes.
all the schools. So
Yeah.
we still have to keep McDowell Mountain safe for the next year. If we even, if we choose to close it, we can't have teachers getting rained on and, destruction happening in the building.
Yeah.
So there are
AC
things
not
that,
working or anything
right,
like
that no matter what are gonna have to be fixed. So John's gonna work with the school facilities board to see what he can accomplish there. And I would like to thank John Flynn for everything that he provided to the committee, because he was at most meetings and he provided us with lots of numbers, toured us through the schools, pointed things out, talked about the domino effect is if you don't fix this, then this happens. And so he was very detailed in, his explanation of why things need to happen. And, yeah, we know, the repairs that have gone on and stuff, but this is beyond just putting Band-Aids on it, so.
I want to chime in about the school facilities board and just mention the fact that while we can apply, it is like a first come, first served grant system.
That's right.
And so it's not as though we get to apply and we know we'll automatically, yes, they always fund us up to X amount every year. No, like if they get a lot of applications across the state, then there might be other schools that they deem as a higher priority request and we could get nothing. So when we plan for any work, we submit, as long as it's something that we know falls under the criteria that school facilities board would fund, we submit it to them, but we always make sure that we have the budget to do the work. It's literally like winning the lottery if we get anything from them. And then it saves us from having to spend our budget, but we don't ever plan something like, oh, we're going to get this from school's facility board and that's what we're banking on. So part of us being able to do the consolidation, we have to make sure that we have the money in the budget. I don't think any of us wants to run down the road and say, yes, we're gonna move forward with this consolidation, and then partway through not have the rest of the, not have all of the funding to be able to complete it, right? So I know that there's some projected costs in here, and much of this is in right now dollars. And as we mentioned, this will be a multi-year process, so these are just estimates, and I don't know if we factored in like a buffer, like potential year-over-year increase in costs so that we can kind of bake in what we think might happen, especially when it comes to construction. We do see many times significant upticks in those prices. So I don't know if we haven't baked anything like that in, we might want to give ourselves a little bit more buffer in the estimate, not something that would be necessarily printed in a budget, but just for the board to bear in mind, like we could potentially need up to X amount if costs increase significantly during the course of this project. Any other comments?
Just that, I want to make sure they understand it'll be August a year from now
Yes.
that this will all take place.
If we,
If we approve it. In that regard, I think the sooner we make that decision so that this thing can happen, especially with the override in the bond, we need to have something to put our name on at some point.
Yes.
So yes,
I may comment on that. So there's a lot of work still left to be done, obviously. But one of the timelines that we've discussed, and the really most aggressive timeline to make this happen for 23-24 school year would be to get going on what needs to be done up here at the high school campus during the next coming months.
Right.
It's really painting, flooring, new ceiling. There's no major infrastructure projects over there. It's really more cosmetic, getting squared away. But get that building basically done before the end of this next school year, so that it's all there, all you have to, and even, you know, desks, furniture, chairs, everything in that place. And then to accomplish the work at the middle school, it would be aggressive but doable, in that school is out May 25th next year. This would have to get bids, have a general contractor.
And be all lined up
And
set
May
to go.
26th, you hit that place, and, you know, you hit it hard, and the bathroom, there's 4 bathrooms that Mrs. Reed mentioned, 2 shared between the 2 kindergarten rooms, 1 shared between a preschool room, a separate one preschool room. So 4 altogether, and that's the biggest construction part of that, but certainly feasible to do. And then the converting the basketball court in the back to the playground area, yeah, I think that should be easy to be done in that time frame. And then there's a little bit of work in that room, I think it's room 138, but that's not a huge thing. But you know, really to make it work, it'd have to be get this stuff done and then hit it like a hurricane on May 26th and get all that work done. And so the planning of that timeline and the financing and everything, that work remains ahead for Dr. Jagdinski and John and Catherine and the site principals, and you know, there's still a lot to do. So the sooner a decision is there, the better.
Thank you for that additional detail. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Reed.
And I did want to let people know that these committee meetings were public. So anybody could have attended. We did have a few parents that attended and, you know, weren't part of the committee, but still participated in discussions. Actually, most of the ladies that are running for governing board for the November election attended so that they could stay up to date and understand what was going on. But one of the things that once the governing board makes a decision, that I would like to see is, I would like to see some public meetings, just informational meetings, because I don't want parents to feel like this decision was made and they can't ask questions or they're not understanding. I would like to see, you know, maybe at least 3 of those happen, you know, whether you're talking to 2 people or you're talking to 20 people. I think it's important that we get the information out and that it's, that the information is fact and not, you know, and not, you know, the rumor that goes on and all of a sudden it becomes this big thing about the high school kids are gonna be, you know, all over our 6th to 8th grade, blah, blah. So I think that's really important. The governing board's gonna make a decision based on, you know, the facts that we have, but it's still important that we hear from parents. It's not gonna change our decision because, you know, that's what the committee was doing. But I think it's important that they understand why and how this is gonna relate to their kids.
And what the timeline is and,
Yeah.
and the factors that we considered as the committee considered.
Correct.
Yes.
You know, historically, this is similar to what we had on this high school campus back in the early 90s when we had both the junior high and the high school on this campus in the same buildings. We had a gate between the music department and the lecture hall and it worked well, so it's not like we're gonna do something we've never done before. It's actually something we have done, and it was successful. We grew out of it, which was okay too. Now we're growing into it again. And as far as McDowell Mountain, I agree with Jill. I mean, there's some history. I was in the neighborhood when it was built. Now it's tearing down, and that, you know, makes me feel really old, first of all. We're not going to use it anyway, whether we tear it down or not, it's another story. But,
Yes.
But I do think this was a good recommendation, and I really, I'll say again, I just know how much work went into this, and I really appreciate the people's names that are
Yeah,
on here for participating.
Appreciate their dedication and commitment to our district, because that's really what it shows, that they participated, and it was meetings twice a month since, what, March, early April?
Yeah, I think it started at the beginning of April.
Yeah, so thank you to everyone involved. Dr. Barnard, do you have any comment or discussion items? I want to make sure that we hear from you if you have anything to say on this topic.
Now, I just wanted to reiterate huge appreciation for everyone who participated in this board, from Mrs. Reed to Mr. Flynn to the parents and community members. It's so great to have multiple voices being heard as we're thinking about this transition. And I was also appreciative of the last sentence in the proposal that was written, not the proposal, but the information that was written up. Basically, acknowledging that it is a tight timeline. So I would just, hope that there are some contingency plans if things do not go according to the timelines that we set forth, because I'm sure we can keep our fingers crossed, but hoping that things go well. But I think everything looks really great, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, well, that was our last item on the agenda. Future action, if you have an item that you would like to see on a future board meeting agenda, you can reach out to Krista. Dates of upcoming meetings, we are on break essentially for most of July. We come back Wednesday, July 27th, 2022 with a board retreat here at 4 p.m. And then our first business meeting of the new school year / fiscal year is Wednesday, August 10th, 2022 at 6 p.m. here in the Learning Center. I will note that as part of our new school year, we have changed our regular meeting time for the business meetings. So this was kind of a special meeting tonight, so we had it at 5 p.m. Usually our business meetings are at 6:30 p.m. We have moved that up to 6 p.m. moving forward. Yes, exactly, yes.
Do we not have a meeting to do the budget?
We will.
We will.
You got that email today?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes, we
It's
will
gonna
be
be on the
having,
13th.
correct, thank you for that reminder. We will be having a special meeting, July 13th at 5 p.m. here so that we can move forward with approving the budget on that extended timeline they gave us since they didn't make any decisions until the 11th hour. But yes, so I will go ahead and move that we adjourn.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Of course not. Meeting adjourned.
And it's adjourned?
Thank you, Wendy.
You want to give that back to Nadia?
Talk to you later.
Bye. Krista?
I would.
I'm going under here because my little thing came off my phone.